चरण कमल पर शीश नमाऊं, अर्पण करूं तुझे नमस्कार, भक्ति भाव की ये स्वर माला कर लेना बाबा स्वीकार, कर लेना बाबा स्वीकार। साईं बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता, साईं बाबा सकल भुवन के offering our loving pranams at the lotus feet of our ever-present Swami and invoking his presence and his benediction on this beautiful evening. most revered elders, dear brothers and sisters, a very warm and loving Sairam to all of you. It's been an absolutely mesmerizing weekend, just bathing in the love that I have received. And I completely believe that that love is Swami's love that is resident in each and every heart. And that is what is flowing. And I think it is that magic of Sai's love which has made all of us come here. It's the magic of Sai's love that makes us continue to think about him, to repeat his name. I take also this opportunity to once again, I see a lot of the brothers over here and the sisters who I have been seeing over the last 3-4 days, and I really wonder how you have such stamina. Aren't you tired of this pace? And in fact, it kind of puts a little pressure on me because I can't afford to repeat the same things that I've been saying. So let me try and share those beautiful, of course, infinite stories of Swami. I remember Swami would always pun on the word, foreigners. He would always say that you are all like the frogs in the well along with, that is we all, not you all. Looking at us students, he would say you are like the frogs under the lotus. You have no idea of the magnificence and the sweet nectar that is there in the lotus. You are just hopping around in this little pond. And all these foreigners who come from all over the world are like bees who come there and who are able to suck on that nectar and go back with their lives enriched. And he would often say that foreigners are far nearer to me. He would say foreigner is far nearer to me than you all. So in that sense, Swami, who is the resident of your heart, is much, much closer to you than what Uncle Murli was saying, that I have spent decades at Swami's presence. In fact, so then let me start with this, with this beautiful story that I had once heard from one of our elder brothers who had spent many years very close to Swami. It seems it so happened once that they were all in Kodaikanal, which is like the summer retreat of Swami. It's a hill station. It's very beautiful and very cold, just like New Zealand. And so kind of my last few days in New Zealand was actually making me very nostalgic about my days in Kodaikanal with Swami. Those chilly nights and those warm, very comfortable mornings and afternoons. So one day Swami was sitting with all the students, in Kodaikanal, and he suddenly said, "So who is ready to purchase me?" Right? Who is ready to purchase me? I am for sale. I am going on an auction, okay, and not on eBay, on eBay probably, right? So I am going on an auction. So who wants to purchase me? So it was kind of a very strange kind of question that Swami was asking, and so nobody knew how to react to that, right? If somebody suddenly says, who wants to purchase me? What do you say? And so nobody raised their hand saying, Swami, I want to purchase you, because what does that mean? And there was one of the brothers who in fact told us this story. He was sitting right next to Swami, and Swami with his legs is beckoning him, like kicking him like this, saying, "Come on, start the process, start the auctioning process." And he did not know, how to react to this whole thing, okay? And so then Swami started saying, "Will you purchase me? Will you purchase me? Will you purchase me?" And so on and so forth. And nobody knew how to react to that situation. And so, it was like, yes, no, what are we supposed to say? And there was this very famous devotee of Bhagwan, Srimati Anjali Devi, the late, great actress who acted in several movies, a very, very ardent devotee of Bhagwan. And she happened to be seated in that crowd, and she raised her hand and she said, "Swami, I will purchase you." And obviously she's a superstar. She's a very, very well-known, having a lot of fortune. And so all the students kind of looked behind and said, yeah, that makes sense. If there is somebody who can actually afford Swami, it is only possibly Srimati Anjali Devi. And Swami also said, Cheppu means tell, what is my price, tell. And so she said, Swami, whatever you say. Whatever you say. Okay? And then Swami kind of became quiet and he said, my price is love. Can you give me as much love that is there in your hearts? Okay, that is my price. So in fact, he kind of revealed the secret of actually purchasing him. Right? We all of us have that currency in our hearts to actually purchase God. Okay, and He is available in infinite. Okay, probably the greatest special offer of this millennium. Right? The Black Friday on Amazon. The greatest sale, 90% off. All you need to do is to give Him love. You can purchase Him with love. Right? So how do we do that? And I thought maybe I can spend a little time on this fact. Once, a lot of people keep asking, oh, you're so lucky, you're in Prashanti Nilayam, we are so far away, we are not as lucky as you are. And in fact, this was a question that was asked to Swami himself. Swami, all of these students who live near you are so lucky, right? All of us, we stay so far away, right? I mean, is that not fair? That doesn't seem fair that all of these boys get, these students get so much of your time and they're so lucky. How are we supposed to, handle this, or how are we supposed to come to terms with this, this position that we are so far away? We come only once in 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, and we get a little time with you, and we are supposed to hold that, all the way for the next, till we make the next trip. And Swami gave a very beautiful analogy, and I would like to share that analogy with you. He suddenly kind of said, have you seen a dam? Have you all seen a dam? Yeah. I heard that in fact New Zealand gets all of its power from hydroelectricity, so I'm sure that there are a lot of dams in New Zealand. So it kind of makes sense to actually tell. There are so many countries, probably in America, very few cities actually have dams. So none of them have even seen dams, right? So Swami in fact started by saying, have you seen a dam? Yes, Swami. What happens at the dam? He says, Swami, electricity gets generated. Okay. So Swami asked, do you think that the electricity that is generated at the dam can actually be utilized in that form itself? Right? The actual electricity that is generated at the dam, can it be used in that form itself? No. Right? Because the electricity actually has to travel for tons and tons of distances, right? Thousands and probably hundreds of kilometers to actually go and reach a household. So, for example, what is the voltage that you get over here? We get in India, we get 220 volts. You get the same, right? So, for 220 volts to actually come out from in your house, do you think 220 volts is what is generated at the station, at the hydro power station? No. Several megawatts is actually generated, and there's a lot of transmission loss, right? By the time it comes to your homes, there's a lot of transmission loss, and so therefore a very high level of electricity has to come to actually make it possible for you to use that electricity in your homes, right? So in fact, this is all Swami's explanation, right? So he's saying that so near your house you have something called a substation, right, where the electricity comes, and from that substation it actually comes to your homes where you can actually make that proper utilization of that power. So he said at every substation there is something called a step-up inverter, right, because there's so much of transmission loss, and so you probably need a step-up inverter to actually bring that electricity to a usable. While at the dam, at the location of the dam itself, there is something called a step-down inverter, okay, which actually removes all the excess power. So here was Swami trying to tell us that however far you are from the dam, you still have access to that electricity. Okay, we have the powerhouse with us. The Lord is like the powerhouse where the electricity is generated. And however far He is from you, you can still utilize His power, His presence in your life to power up your lives. Right? And in fact, if you are too close to Him, there is a chance that you will burn off. That is what Swami was saying. Right? And if you are too far away from Him, so what you need basically is a step down transformer or a step up transformer. If you are too close to Him, you get ego. Right? You get ego. Oh, I am so close to Swami. Swami talks to me, there's Vibhuti coming only in my house and nobody else's house and all of that. So Swami comes and he steps down on you. Step down transformer, step down inverter. Okay? Boss, relax, relax, relax. And all of those people who are very distant from Swami, they need a step up transformer. Because after some time, we kind of lose that. Yesterday over the last 4 or 5 days, we have been, with the powerhouse of the beautiful energy that all of you have had. And now over the weeks, it will start stepping down. Slowly there will be a loss of transmission. Right? Over a period of time, there's a transmission loss. And so what you need to maintain that energy is what is a step up transformer. So Swami asked, so what is this inverter? Now this inverter seems to be a very important thing, isn't it? What is this inverter which can step down and step up when necessary? Obviously nobody knew the answer. Swami said, a heart full of devotion is the inverter. Right? It's the heart full of love which will help me to come down and not get ego. At the same time, it will help me to step up when necessary. Right? So our heart, which is in fact very close to us, physically, literally and figuratively, is actually the inverter that is necessary for us to maintain and power ourselves, maintain our connection with Swami and power ourselves in through all the situations of our lives. So the point is now, how do I maintain this heart? Correct? The next obvious point is, fine brother, you told us that it's the heart which is the most important step up and step down transformer. And that is what I thought I will share with you. In every one of our hearts is not an ordinary one. Once you have come to God, the heart does not remain ordinary. It becomes extraordinary. Right? Why? Because I'm sure all the ladies over here, all the sisters over here will agree with me. I'm sure in all your houses, you have a safe at home in which all the choicest jewelry is actually deposited, right? I'm sure you have. Okay? And every now and then, you go to the safe and you open it and you just look at it and say, yes or no? With the smiles on everybody's faces, I think it's an affirmation, right? Swami once said that our heart is like a safe. It's like a safe with jewels in it, right? It is a treasure chest of our lives. Okay, and what are those jewels? In order to maintain our journey on our spiritual path, just like our sisters over here, all of us, because we are all females in one way, because we are part of Prakriti, he is the only Purusha, right? He is the only male, we are all females, right? So all of us, every now and then, can we open this treasure chest of our hearts and look at the jewels which are inside of that, right? And feel good, and feel inspired, and feel motivated, and feel secure and safe that yes, somebody is there with me. My choicest, my jewels, everything else may be taken away from me, but these jewels will always be with me. Right? Now, all of us at some point of time, so what are these jewels is what I'm trying to tell you. At some point of time, Swami walked into your lives. At some point of time, he showed you what he meant to you, and you showed him what you meant to him. Right? Those are the jewels in our heart. Oftentimes, through our journey, even within the Satya Sai organization, we tend to forget those jewels. We just get lost in the day-to-day functioning and the operation and, now beyond 2020, then beyond 2025, then beyond 2030, and these workshops and all of this will come and go. But can I, once in a while, look into that treasure chest to see, yes, I am safe, I am secure. And these are the blessings that I have with me. Right? I'm sure all of us have some experience or the other. As with the number of people who are there, I'm sure each one of you have those jewels in your heart of your relationship with Swami. But I will probably talk about 4 jewels that are there in each and every one of us. The jewels are those legacies that Swami has left behind for us. While he physically may not be over here, right, he has left his presence in our life in the form of 4 jewels. So what are those 4 jewels? Okay, and I like to talk about my 4 jewels, and I'm sure each one of you would like to talk about your jewels. But basically the idea is to keep thinking about these jewels over and over again, and how lucky we are, how fortunate we are to actually have these jewels for ourselves. And believe me, these are the 4 common jewels that all of us have, and probably the most important and the most powerful amongst all jewels. So what are these? The jewel number 1 is Swami's name. Okay, this beautiful name of Sai Baba that he has given is the first jewel that we have in our hearts. So let me tell you, I always used to wonder, in our Hindu, in our Sanatana Dharma, we have supposedly 33 crore gods. It's a whole lot of gods, right? And so I used to wonder, Swami, why didn't you just borrow one of those 33 crore names? Why did you come up with an extra name like this? 33 crores and 1. That's 330 million names we have. So why Sai Baba? Why one extra name? You could have just borrowed one of the names, right? So many names are, just pick up one and come. Right? What is so special about the Sai Baba? Right? Which is a special jewel in my heart. Okay? Probably the only name which impersonalizes God, or rather which personalizes him to such an extent that he becomes my customized God. Right? He is not a God which is for millions. He is a God who is personal to me. He is my own God, my personal God is. We all have our personal smartphones. Everything is personal, right? Just imagine, he was the first one to become personalized. Why? Because in his name are embedded 2 words, I and Baba. In Marathi, I means mother and Baba means father. Okay. And so he is Sa I, that is Sai. Okay, my divine, Sa stands for divinity. Sa I, divine mother and divine father. Right? Which means he's very, very close to me. I remember there was a very, very senior devotee of Bhagwan. His name was Mr. Rama Brahmam. In fact, some years, I think some months back, his photograph was spreading along in the WhatsApp groups. Somebody, I think, had just remembered him, and they found a photograph of Ram Brahmam standing with Swami. Ram Brahmam was like a 7 foot, not 7 foot, 6'5", that was his really tall and hefty man. Okay, and Swami is all of 5 foot 3 inches. Okay, he's like that much. Okay, and Ram Brahmam was a very, very strict man. Very, very strict. You couldn't even stand in front of him, if you didn't have job. You couldn't just go and, hi uncle, and he'll say, Sai Ram, you please go and do your work. That kind of a person. And so he was the caretaker of Swami's residence in Vrindavan, which is, of Bangalore, near Bangalore. And he used to always wear these spick and span dhotis and kurtas, the cycle dhoti, like the traditional dhoti style of wearing, it's called cycle dhoti. Because you can, along with the dhoti, you can actually sit on a cycle. That's why it's called cycle dhoti. Because otherwise, if you wear a normal dhoti, you can't sit on a cycle. So he used to wear the cycle dhoti, and he used to wear a long kurta, the traditional kind of attire for Indians. And so it so happened one day that Swami was writing something, and Swami said, hey Ram Brahmam, bring me some water. Right? He was inside Swami's residence, and Ram Brahmam happened to be bringing out some coffee from the kitchen. So it was like the flask was in his hand, and so he thought that, oh, Swami is asking for water. So he just thought, okay, I'll just leave this flask, on the table and then go to the kitchen and get water, right? And so he just left it and then walked back to the kitchen and brought water. Okay, so it probably would have taken a couple of minutes to actually reach where Swami was. And Swami was busy writing, and so he just stood next to Swami for some time, and then he just called out, he said, Swami. And Swami looked at him and said, yeah? He said, Swami, you wanted water. No, water I wanted that time, not now. Okay, so he knew that he had kind of, upset Swami. Probably Swami wanted a faster response or something like that. And this matter ended here. A few weeks later, in fact a few months later, Swami was in Prashanti Nilayam and had gone back to Prashanti Nilayam, and Ram Brahman used to stay in Bangalore, and he would oversee the entire operations of the ashram. So he had gone to supervise a motor. There is a motor room in Vrindavan from where all the water gets pumped to the ashram. So, somebody had told him that it was leaking, and so he had to go and supervise that. So he had gone over there, and it was all slushy, all over the place. And Ram Brahman was about 75 years old, okay, and so he had limped his way all the way there. And while he was coming near the pump, he slipped, okay, and he was about to fall. When he suddenly said, Sai Ram, he shouted, okay, and he felt there was a cushion behind. Okay, and he did not fall because a 6'5" person, 75 years old, if slips and fall, he'll probably break his hip, right? But he he got the support, and his spick and span dress, he was like, oh, thank God, nothing got spoiled and all that. And that's where this incident got over. A few weeks later, when he had been to Parthi, goes to Parthi, Swami tells him, what Ram Brahmam? Do you remember who saved you when you were about to slip? So he said, yes Swami, I just called out to your name and you were there. Swami said, yes, I was there. The moment you called out, I came to your rescue. But when I called out to you, you did not come. Right? See that? There are so many beautiful things embedded in this story. One is whenever you call out to his name, he will be there instantaneously. Right? When we call out to Swami, we expect him to be there right there, not after some time. Right? When we call out to Sai, when we say Sai Ram or Sai Baba, we want him to be there instantaneously. Here is God telling us that just like I will be there instantaneously for you, will you be there instantaneously for me? I am calling upon you to surrender and to give me your love. Are you there for me just like I am there for you? Right? That is the power of the name of. I thought I'll share this just to tell you the power that he is there, right when we want him to be. That is the power of his name. And that is why I in fact started this whole satsang with Sai Baba Sakala Bhuvana Ke Data, because that's such a beautiful name that we have with us. What is the second jewel? So the first jewel is name. The second jewel that we have in our treasure chests of our heart, okay, and that is his form, right? Why do we say his form? Because just imagine what is the probability that when God, the creator of this universe, happens to be on earth, we also happen to be on earth. Just think about it, it is almost, the probability of that happening is close to impossible. The earth, this universe has been around for 7 billion years. The earth has been around for about 400 million years. Yes, that's the age of our earth. And human beings have been around for about 400,000 years. Right? So imagine how many human beings have actually lived on earth. Tens of billions of people would have been living on earth. Okay, and exactly at the time when I and you are on earth, the Lord Almighty takes a form and comes down. Okay, what a probability. What a small probability. And more importantly, while the Lord is in the physical form, I and you know about it. Because there are several billions who don't even know about the existence of God in human form. Right? It was just Jesus who came in the human form. It was Rama and Krishna and Buddha. Right? Hardly, probably on two hands, we can probably count the number of times God has come down in human form. And we happen to be contemporaries of that form. And the form is not an ordinary one. We think that, obviously, we pray to Him. But let me tell you another beautiful incident about what that form is all about. What is this, the Satya Sai form all about? So again, another story. So every year in the month of January, we have what is called the sports meet. Okay, and that is when we do a lot of sports. Mostly they are not competition, but they are more like exhibition items that we put. It could be daredevilry, it could be bike stunts or carabining and all of that stuff. And Swami would give a lot of importance to sport. Okay, he always wanted. In fact, in our university, sports is compulsory. You have to play sport, right? And so he had come one of the days to the ground to oversee the sports meet activities and how the whole practice was going on. And it so happened that Swami was talking about the importance of physical fitness. Okay? And he was telling all the students that it's very important for you to be physically fit. So there was one brother, once again he was about 6'3" he would go to the gym every day and pump up, and he had a really nice toned body. Okay? And he started wondering that, hey Baba, Swami, this is not your department. In his mind, you stick to Atma, Paramatma and spirituality and all that. Leave the physical fitness part to us. I mean, what would you know? You are all of 5'3" with a beauty body. Okay? What would you know about physical fitness? So, kind of stick to your domain. Your domain speciality is spirituality, and so stick to that. Ask me about pumping. What does it mean to go and pump in the gym? Okay, so this was the thought going on in his mind. Just when, Swami caught that thought and looked at him and said, what are you thinking? Okay. And so he said, no, nothing, Swami. Kind of folded his hands. And Swami asked him, you think I'm weak? You think I'm weak? I'm not strong? Come on. I challenge you to an arm wrestling duel. Yes. And so the first thing that this brother thought was, wow, you get to hold God's hand, Swami's hand. Okay? And so that was his first thought, but then he immediately kind of figured, if I actually hold Swami's hand tight and something happens to that hand, the ashram is going to finish me. So just imagine, next day Swami walking in a sling. And especially, it is the hand which creates. So, dear devotees, no more creations for the next 3 weeks. Right? So all of these thoughts started going on through his mind. And so he said, let me just gently hold Swami's hand. And so a table was brought. Okay, Swami sat on one side. The brother sat on the other side. And there was actually, Swami said, okay, come on, hold. And this brother held Swami's hand. Okay? And Swami's hand is like butter. It's like so soft. His feet and his hands are like so soft. So he held that and he wondered, Swami, what are you doing? This is an avataric blunder. For the first time it will be recorded in history that a man defeated God. Okay? And so he kind of, first just in the beginning he just held Swami's hand. And he noticed that Swami's hand was actually quite firm. So he said, okay, let me go ahead, let me go, a little harder. And so he started pushing Swami's hand a little harder. Okay, and he noticed that Swami's hand was a little more tough. And he started putting even more strength and even more strength and even more strength. And Swami's hand was like a rock. Okay, it was not budging a nanometer. It was just not moving, and soon this brother found himself putting all his strength. Okay, his hand is shaking as he's pushing Swami's hand. Okay, he's just not able to move Swami's hand, much less kind of put it down. And Swami, in the meantime, looking from the other side, taunting him, what, didn't have breakfast? Kind of. And now, it was his ego at stake. How dare! Okay? And Swami said, if you want, you can use the other hand also. If one hand does not have that much strength, you can use the other hand also. And so he used both the hands to push. And Swami's hand wouldn't move a centimeter. Okay? And soon Swami asked, he said, hey, call the warden. Looks like he's not feeding the boys properly. These fellows, the only big bodies are big, nothing inside. Looks like they're hollow bodies. And kind of is taunting now the whole student community. Okay? And so Swami asked a few students who were standing around, Swami, if you want, you also can use your hands. Push. And so 3 more boys, okay, a total of 5 hands are trying to push Swami's hand. And Swami's hand is not moving an inch. Okay, 5 hands with all their might they are trying to push, and Swami is just holding on over there. Okay, and after about a few seconds, or probably a minute, Swami said, "Okay, bas, chalu, enough." And so the moment Swami said enough, what would you do immediately? Oh my God, right? Everybody just folded their hands, and even this brother also folded the hands, and he stood up because he had just seen the ultimate power of God, right? And that's what he thought. And so Swami, and see, this is the beauty of Swami, because there's always a message that is coming out from, from whatever he's trying to do. And so Swami just asked him, so tell me boys, why is it that you were not able to defeat me in arm wrestling? Why is it that you were not able to push my hand? And so what would be our answer? Swami, you are God. So that was exactly the same answer that even the brothers also gave. Swami, you are God. And see, that is the mistake that we do. That we just attribute of divinity to him, and therefore we feel that everything is done. Right? I can't do it because I am weak. I am just a human being. I can't do anything. I am ordinary. Right? And we just say that, oh, Swami can do because he is God, Swami's answer was a very beautiful one. Swami said, absolutely not. The answer that they gave, which is your God, and that's why we were not able to defeat you. Swami said, and this is a very interesting thing, do you really think, Swami said, I need to use my divine powers to beat you in arm wrestling? Just think about it, that God, the divine, supreme, ultimate, almighty Lord, comes down to show off his powers. Hey man, you can't defeat me in arm wrestling. What a cheap exhibition of his power, right? Right? Means imagine after the Lord finishes his avataric mission, he goes back on top and he says, the other deities, Narada and all of them ask him, so Lord, what were your chief, what are the highlights? Show me the highlights package of your avataric mission. He says, one of them was these 5 fellows couldn't defeat me in arm wrestling. Right? It doesn't even make sense. Right? Swami said, I do not need my this body has. Comes from the purity. This body from top to toe, not once in its lifetime, in the body's lifetime, not once, this body has ever thought, has ever spoken, or has done any harm to others. By thought, word or deed, this body has never harmed anybody. The strength comes from that purity. And then he said, even you can get that strength. If you lead a life, one of purity, even you can get that strength. See, this is the Lord coming and telling us the secret to that success. You don't have to become a divine being. You are already a divine being. All you need to do is to call upon that divinity by the purity of thought, word and deed. And how many times in our lifetimes, in fact, all the great masters that we have seen and all the great saints, you will in fact notice that a person who has that strength of character automatically gets that strength. Yes or no? In the life around us, in the society around us, you will notice that the people who have that absolute strength are the people with absolutely impeccable characters. Right? When they just say no, you know that they mean no. And you don't have the guts to go back and tell them, no, it's not that way. Because that is the strength that comes from the character. Right? That body is made of that purity. So it's not an ordinary body. And the reason I tell this, the reason why I feel like emphasizing on this form is that it's not an ordinary form. Today, in the absence of that physical form, we are ready to hold on to anything else, which we think can replicate that form. Right? For example, all the mediums that we see around. We are easily ready to accept, oh, Sai Baba gone. So this fellow is now speaking like Sai Baba. So he's good enough for me. He's not good enough. He'll never be. Nobody will ever be good enough as much as this form. Because this is not an ordinary form. Right? Even for that matter, all the leelas that we see in everybody's, great devotees' houses like Vibhuti coming. That is enough. This is enough for me. No, that is not enough for us. Those are his leelas. That is his play. We cannot equate the form of the Lord with anything else. Because otherwise it is tantamounting to desecrating his body. Oh, that means we are basically trying to say, Swami, you need not have taken form. Correct? No? You need not have taken form because I am getting the same joy even without your form. So actually you made a blunder by taking a form and coming, because I am happy even with other things. The same amount of joy I am getting even without your form. The reason being that the avataric form, the form of the Lord, is the only thing which is in this world which is capable of giving us liberation. Right? Otherwise they say everything in this world, nothing is capable of giving us liberation, isn't it? There's only one thing in this world which is capable of giving us the ultimate self-realization or salvation or liberation, and that is meditating on the form of the Lord. That is why even someone like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, always told pray to Mother Kali, never told pray to me. Because that form of his is not capable of giving liberation. Yes, the soul inside is absolutely ripened, it's ready. Right? Nobody can doubt that. Nobody can doubt the divinity of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. But there is nothing comparable to the form of God in human form. That is something which is spectacular. That is something which it's a great boon that is given. So in fact, that is why they say in the scriptures that the Saguna Bhakti, which is to just focus on the form of Swami, is capable of giving us the ultimate. That is why, in Jyoti meditation or whatever, we can just focus on the form of the Lord. It is capable of giving us the ultimate experience. So it's not an ordinary form. It's a form that is capable of... So in fact, one Swami was asked, Swami, you say that this entire world is an illusion, Maya. Right? You are also in this world, which means are you also an illusion? Pretty tough, nice question, no? Means you say that this world is illusion. You are also in this world. Are you also illusion? And Swami's answer was, in your dream world, a lion comes, and he roars. And he roars so loudly that it shakes you up and it wakes you up. Correct? Sometimes we get these dreams where it just jolts you out of slumber. Swami said, I am like that lion which has entered into your dream to roar so loudly that you will be awakened. He has come to awaken us from our slumbers. So yes, in that sense, he has to enter into our dream world. He has to enter into this illusory world to tell us that, oh man, get up. How long are you going to keep sleeping? Get up and realize your true divinity. Right? That is the power of that form. It may look illusory, but it has come for a specific purpose. And we are so lucky that we have this jewel with us. Right? So that's why the second jewel is the form. Now let's move on to the third jewel. I am in fact trying to wrap it up because I wanted to sing one bhajan for the name, the form and all of that, but there is no time. So we'll just do one bhajan which will kind of summarize the entire thing. So the third jewel is, what do you think is the third jewel? The third jewel is his message. Right? The message of the Lord is the third jewel that all of us have in our hearts. And his message has only been very, very simple. In fact, I've always believed that if all of the Satyasai speaks and all of the Vahinis and all of the summer showers for some reason were burnt, let us say, One day, all of the books that were available and all his discourses were lost. Okay? Only one word remained with us. That would be enough to encompass his entire message. And what is that? Every time he started his discourse, he would start it with one phrase. What is that? Exactly. Prema Swarupala. If only this one phrase lived with us, and all of the other messages and all of the thousands of discourses that he gave, for some reason were lost to humanity, it was enough for us to just hold on to this one beautiful phrase that he has given us. Prema Swarupalara, you are the embodiment of love. And so is God. God is also love, you are also love, and therefore by transitivity, you are God. Right? By a simple transitivity, A is equal to B, B is equal to C, therefore A is equal to C. Right? Using that, you are love, he is love, and therefore you are he. Simple. All of his message can be just summarized in this beautiful one phrase, which is yeah. And it is in fact that pursuit of that love, which is, of all that we do and all of the spiritual activities that we do, whether it is service, whether it is dhyana, meditation, or whether it is yajna or yaga, whatever it is only in the pursuit of we knowing that we are actually love. Right? I'm reminded of another beautiful incident, because I believe that Uncle Murli was telling that he has a story for everything. Because I personally love to hear stories only. I don't like philosophy. Yeah, right? When we can actually explain philosophy through stories, why go back to philosophy? Why read a theory when we have practice with us? Right? And so that is why I like to tell stories. Okay? And so I will tell you this another very beautiful incident that happened of how that love, how that Swami's love was. It's a very, very simple story. So it so happened that, Swami would like to start off a debate between the girl students and the boy students. Okay, he will, chavi chalana, he will just kind of turn the key a little bit to get. So one day in the Trai Vrindavan, he was, the students, the girl students and the boy students were there together. And the principal of the Anantapur campus, she said, Swami, you all the time spend your time with boys only. We don't get anything. We are also as good as them. In fact, if not as good, we are in fact better than them. We can do everything better than them. So Swami said, hey, see man, they are all telling they are better than you. Looking at all the boys and saying, it seems he is better than you. They are all better than you. So all the boys immediately, no Swami, we are the best. And then all the students, that side students say, no Swami, we are the best, and that kind of debate. And then Swami said, okay, you tell what you can do, what they cannot do. What is it that the girl students can do that the boy students cannot do? So they said, Swami, we can make chapatis. We cannot make chapatis. Rotis. So in the in the moment, in that particular moment, the boy said, even we can make chapatis. No big deal in making chapatis. And so Swami just put the spanner into the wheel, saying, okay, tomorrow boys you make chapatis. So it was the summer course time, okay, and all the students are there, about 2,500 students, and so the girl students would make chapatis every day, okay, and so they also kind of they took the opportunity and said, fine, tomorrow for afternoon, let the boy students make chapatis. 2,500 chapatis, in fact 2 per head, so 5,000 chapatis actually made. Okay, and so kind of it got over then. And Swami said, okay, now I'm going, because that's what he'll do. He'll start that and then he will go off. Right? And before going, as he was going, he looks at the warden and he said, what are you going to do? Do you have any idea what you have signed up for? Okay. And then the warden said, oh my God, how are we actually going to make chapatis? Okay. And so there was a emergency meeting called in which it was, the strategic dialogue that went on was how to handle this crisis situation, how to make chapatis. Okay, and in fact, the configuration or the specifications of the chapatis are also kind of, were discussed. That, the chapatis cannot be like puris. They have to be like a proper chapati, pretty long, big and all, and it should be round. Okay, not the maps of some countries. Because that's the real thing about chapati, right? The chapati is defined by its circularness, not by the content it has, right? So how do you do that? You know, it's actually a skill that you need to have, which our sisters have over here. You know, which is while they roll it, automatically it will be moving, and suddenly, like, you know, like a creative process, like just like Swami shows Abhay Hasta, they also can show the chapati. So all this discussion was going on, and you know, the boys sat through the night and they made the dough ready. Okay, first, you know what? Let's take the first step, which is get the dough ready. So all of them, 20 boys came together, and you know, they got they needed the dough and got the dough ready. And the next day morning, okay, Swami sends word for a couple of boys. Okay, and so the boys go inside, and Swami gives them a carrier. So what would happen is all the food that is served during the summer course, okay, all of that food will go to Swami. A part of the food will go as prasadam to Swami, you know, on his lunch, so that he knows what the students are eating, right? So for that there will be a carrier which is sent, you know, into which all of the food has to be. And so the boys who went to get the carrier thought, oh my God, this is like the ultimate test, because we can't just serve any chapatis and kind of get away, because Swami is going to eat these chapatis now. He's going to see the chapatis, right? So there's a quality check happening over there. Okay, and the boys started rolling. Okay, and Australia, New Zealand, England, Zimbabwe, South Africa, all maps are coming up, other than the entire globe, which is round. All other, you know, sizes and shapes are coming. And everybody's trying, thinking, hey, how does this happen here? How does that damn thing get round? Okay, and Swami walks into the kitchen. Okay, and he's asking, so boys, any luck? And all of them say, Swami, just 2 hours left for lunch. Okay, and we have not figured out how to do this. Okay, and Swami says, then what is going to happen? You're going to cut your nose. Naak cut jayegi. You're going to cut, you're going to get really embarrassed. So, you know, that means you've proven that you're not as good as girls. Okay, and everybody was like, Swami, so what do we do now? And Swami said, I've already given you the solution. Huh? What is the solution? Okay, and then Swami says, those carrier boxes which are there, no? You just make one long dough and just put the carrier box in and make it round. And you will get the perfect size shape. Okay. And then it struck to everybody, and needless to say, all the chapatis were absolutely round, in fact, way too round for a natural this thing. And then Swami comes back and says, you know, while serving, he came back and he asked the principal, so how are the chapatis? You know, how are the chapatis? And she said, Swami, they are really good, Swami. Okay. And then Swami says, yes, because my love for both of you are the same. That is why, however you make chapatis, they also make chapatis by my grace. And he was not wrong. He was not wrong when he said, by my grace, you also make beautiful chapatis, they also make beautiful. See, that is the love that Swami has. Okay, the simple message that you offer it to him, you surrender it to him, and he will take over even the smallest problems in your life, even the largest problems in your life. Right? So now we will come to the last jewel. So what are the 3 jewels? Can we just go through it? Name, form, message. And the last jewel, okay, and this is again a very rare jewel that we have, is his place. Okay? Is the place that he has given to us, which is Prashanti Nilayam. Okay? Just like his form is very rare, his place too is very rare. See, oftentimes I'm sure you go to several temples or you go to several monuments in the world and somebody tells you this is a very special monument. Why? Because especially in India, if you go to the different temples, they will tell you that, you know, this temple was built 5,000 years ago. Rama had come here for a day. Or Krishna was here for 2 weeks. You know, and in fact, if you go to this place called Uttarakhand, where there is Badrinath and Kedarnath and all of those places, it's called Deva Bhumi. Uttarakhand is actually called Deva Bhumi, which is the land of gods, because almost every town has a legend to tell you. Okay, literally I got so vexed when I was going through there. Because everywhere, no sir, you should stop here. Sir, here, no, Draupadi, she combed her hair. Okay, yeah. I mean, there's no place like that. I'm just making it up. But it kind of got so much that, this is the place where she dried her clothes. This is where Pandavas yawned for once, kind of. So, almost every place has a significance of that type. Okay. And even while I was thinking about it, right, we take all these arduous long journeys to go to a place where Rama had stayed for one night, for one day, for 3 months, for 14 years, etc., etc. We have a place where God was born and God led his entire life, not for 3 months, for 3 years or for 3 decades, but for 8.5 decades. Right? Can you beat that? Is there any place in the world where God was born? And that's another beautiful thing that, which is very rare. If you look at all of the avatars, all of the divine personages, you will realize one thing from their lives. And that is, their Janma Kshetras and their Karya Kshetras have always been different. That is, Janma Kshetra means the place of their birth, and Karya Kshetras is the place of their activity. Their place of their birth and the place of their activity have always been different. For example, Rama was born in Ayodhya, but all his leelas where? All of his avatar was where? Not in Ayodhya, isn't it? They were in the forests of Dandakaranya and then in Lanka. Right? All his leelas were somewhere else. He was born somewhere, but look at Krishna. Right? He was born in Mathura, but where was all his leelas? In Vrindavan, in Gokula, and in Hastinapur, right, with the Pandavas. Look at Jesus Christ. Jesus was born in Bethlehem, but all his leelas were in Jerusalem, right? In fact, you look at any avatar, even Shirdi Baba, for example. Shirdi Baba was not born in Shirdi. He was born in Patri, right, and then all his leelas were in Shirdi. Right? So it is almost like you can make out a formula which is there, which is the place of birth is very rarely the place of activity. Probably the only avatar where the place of birth and the place of activity is the same is Puttaparthi. And that was also because, in fact, it was not going to be like that, In the age-old days, when Swami had just told about his avatarhood, and revealed to the world when he was 14 years of age, revealed to the world that he is avatar, the people in his own village did not accept it. Right? He was in fact stoned. Swami used to be stoned. His house used to be stoned. In fact, his own family members could not believe that such a divine personage can be in their home. And in fact, in those days, the devotees, a lot of devotees who would come from, from Mysore, which is near Bangalore, and from Chennai, the city of Madras, very, very rich devotees would come and tell Swami, Swami, don't stay here, you come off with us. We will build a palace for you in Mysore. We will build a palace for you in Chennai. We will build a palace or an ashram for you wherever you want it. You don't stay here, Swami. Okay, and Swami said, no, this is where I was born. And in fact, it was Mother Ishwarama who got Swami, to give that promise to Swami that you will never leave Prashantanila. Right? Let me tell you a few things about the Kulvanthal. I'm sure you all know about the gold and the green. On top of Kulvanthal. Okay, so some of you who don't know, if you look at Swami's buildings, typically, if you look at Swami's architecture, there are 3 colors that you will predominantly see in all of Swami's building. Blue, pink, and cream or beige kind of color. And in fact, it is these 3 colors which you can identify from really far. That you know that hey, this is a Sai building. At least in India, we know that it is a Sai Mandir or a Sai school just by looking at the colors of the building, because those were Swami's favorite colors. And if you even come to Prashant Nilayam and see, all of the buildings are in combinations of these 3 colors: blue, pink, and beige or cream color. Right? So when the roof of Kulvanthal was being painted, Okay, in fact, they took shades of these three to show, ask Swami which one should be painted. Which color Swami would like. And Swami chose green, completely out of the box. Okay, means completely not the colors that he had ever chosen. Okay, and so everybody was kind of surprised. Green, something that nobody had even thought of. Okay, and so the painting. So then Swami asked him, "Do you know why I have painted this entire thing green?" And he said, Swami said, "In my lifetime, in the sojourn of this body, I will not be able to give all the devotees a green diamond ring. And therefore I have decided to paint the entire Kulwant Hall into green and gold, so that whoever steps into Kulwant Hall, whoever steps into Prashanti Nilayam will have peace, prosperity and security forever." This was Swami's promise that he has given to all of us. That once you step, and in fact, isn't it very similar to what Shirdi Baba told? Right? If you read the Shirdi Sai Satcharita, he says, those who step into Dwaraka Mai, right, the beautiful temple that Shirdi Baba has, will have my protection forever. Right? It is Swami's promise to us that once you step into Kulwant Hall, into Prashanti Nilayam, you have his protection forever. And over the years, we think that Swami is physically not with us, but some incredible things have happened, at the Samadhi. In fact, we don't call it Samadhi. We students call it Sannidhi. Sannidhi actually means nearness, right? So we in fact call it, for us we don't like to refer to it as Mahasamadhi, because Mahasamadhi means that the person is not there, right? But Swami, in fact, this is something that I have not told very many people, but from 1999 onwards, Swami would come and tell us, after I go, I will be over here, I will still be over here. And he would be standing in the same place where the Samadhi now is, where the Sannidhi now is, and he would tell us this, that where I am standing now is where I will be forever. Okay, and in fact he had given instructions even at that time, and at that time of course we did not want to hear such terrible things. Like we didn't even pay attention. What do you mean, Swami, you are not there? Right? Because we never even thought that there could be a time when physically we will not have his form with us. Right? But he had told us that long after I go, long after this body ceases to exist, every brick of Kulwant Hall, every brick of this mandir will radiate my message and my name and my love. He had told every brick of this mandir will radiate my name. And therefore, this is the fourth and the most beautiful jewel that Swami has given us. It is our home. In fact, maybe I'll end it on this note. I'll just tell two more stories and then we'll end it. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was one of the Prime Ministers of India. Okay, one of the great Prime Ministers, one of the great leaders of India. And way back in 1980s, and he was also a very, very ardent devotee of Swami. So way back in 1980, in 79, or was it 81? Don't know the exact date. But his political party, okay, so the Indian Parliament has 565 seats, 565 seats. Just like you have the Parliament over here. So in the entire Parliament, so you need something like 272 seats to actually have majority, beyond 272 seats. And at that time, Atal Bihari Vajpayee's party had won 2 seats in the elections at that time. And after that, he had come to Bhagwan to take his blessings. And Swami told him way back in 1980, you will be the Prime Minister of the country. Okay? And he was telling that he started laughing. He was telling us that in my mind I started laughing because I said, Swami, it's impossible that I can be the Prime Minister. My whole party has 2 seats. I need 271 more seats. Okay, it's impossible to actually have it. Of course, in 1999, it went on to happen that Atal Bihari Vajpayee did go on to become the Prime Minister of the country. But the more beautiful thing that I wanted to share with you is the following. Is, such a beautiful devotee, love such a lovely devotee that he was, he told Swami, Swami, I don't know whether I'll become the Prime Minister, but whatever I become in my life, please don't stop me from coming back to you. You know? Because he knew that politicians and all, Swami would generally keep them away. Right? But so he said, Swami, irrespective of whatever I become in my life, Swami, always allow me to come back to your lotus feet. And Swami's answer was even more beautiful. Swami said, to come back to the mother's home, the child does not need permission. You don't have to ask me permission to come back over here. This is your mother's home. Right? And he was telling that many, many years later, in fact, in the year 2010, when Swami had been to Delhi, Atal Bihari Vajpayee has now, really bad knees, and he also has, he's kind of forgetting. And so Swami had gone to visit his house. When Swami had been to Delhi, Swami had gone to visit Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And so the Sevadal brothers were in fact telling me this, those who were, with Swami around. So as Swami was leaving his home, he and Swami came out on the porch, and Swami tells him one thing. Swami tells him, "Hey Atal, when you were the Prime Minister of the country, all the time around you, there were ministers and army men and bureaucrats and all of them around you. Yes?" So he said, "Yes, Swami." "See, now you are not the Prime Minister, now nobody comes." Okay. And he said, "Yes, Swami." And then Swami said, "But still, I came to see you." And then Swami said, "Even when the world walks out on you, I will never give you up. The world may walk out on us, but Swami will be with us every time." That is the assurance that Swami has given us. So let me just end this talk with a beautiful experience. There was one of our professors in our university who had gone through a really, really terrible moment. The passage of time, like about 6-8 months, were probably the most devastating moments in his life. He lost his wife, he lost both his daughters to an accident. In a matter of, it was not like one shot, it was like his wife left, and then his first daughter, and then his second daughter. And then he lost his job also. So you can imagine what a traumatic time he must be going through. And at that time, as he was going through this most challenging moment of his life, he would sit in the altar and he would just cry to Swami. "Swami, why is this happening? What is the meaning of all of this?" And one night, Swami comes into his dream, and Swami just says, "Goldsmith, goldsmith, goldsmith." The same word, Swami repeats it thrice, and that's where the dream ends. And so this sir woke up in the morning and he was wondering, see, that is how God will be. He will never give you the answer, because there's no big deal in giving you the direct answer. You have to search, you have to pine, and you have to do your own sadhana to get the right answer. Right? And so he was wondering, what does Swami mean by this goldsmith? So he was walking along, on the footpath during the day, and he just happened to pass by a goldsmith shop. Okay, and something told him, enter. So he just enters randomly into some random goldsmith shop and goes and tells the guy who is sitting at the counter there, "Tell me something." Okay, just talk to me. And the goldsmith is wondering, who are you, man? Why you come? What am I saying? I don't even know you. He says, "I don't know, you just tell me something." Because when you become desperate for answers, the answer could come from anyone. And that is why, in that sense, everybody is the medium of Swami. Because the answer can come from anywhere. He can choose anybody and everybody to give you the answer of your life. So this goldsmith, he's kind of taken aback a little bit, and he wonders and he says, "What do I tell you? Okay, let me tell you what I do. Right? How I make the jewelry pieces and all of that, I'll tell you." So he says, "Okay, please tell me." So he says, "See, when I get gold, the gold comes in an absolute impure form. It comes with all its impurities, with the rocks and all that. And so the first thing I do is I take this hammer and I beat out all of the impurities, the physical impurities that I can see with my eyes, I start to beat. And once I've beaten the entire piece of rock, okay, out of, with, away from all its impurities, then now I have to work on the impurities which I cannot see with my eyes. And so what do? I take this and I throw it into fire and I start to burn it. Okay? And even as this description had started, our professor had started getting his answers. Okay, that all of this beating process is only to purify. Right? And so this goldsmith started saying that I make it melt and then it starts melting and then there is bubbling, and this tremendous amount of tumult in that piece of gold which has been thrown into the fire. And by now, the entire analogy has become so clear for professor. Now the professor wants to know, so he asks him, so when does this end? When does this entire process end? When do you know that the gold has become absolutely pure? 24 karat pure gold. And that is the punchline when the goldsmith says, and he gets to know his answer, the goldsmith says, I know that the gold is pure when I can see my reflection in it. When I can see my reflection in it, then I know that the gold is pure. The professor had his answer, and we have our answer too. That all of us are in this process of getting beaten. And then we will be thrown into the fire. And there was one other thing that the goldsmith says, that not for a moment do I take my eye off the gold when it is in the fire. Because I don't want it to get overburnt. So not for a moment does our Lord take his eyes off us when that purification is going on. But the purification will end only when I and he are one. When he sees his reflection in us, when we become prema swarupas, it is only then that that whole process will end, and that is our ultimate destiny. Right? So let us cherish these 4 jewels in our heart. Okay, because these are the 4 legacies that the Lord has left behind for us. Thank you once again for this beautiful opportunity to share Swami's love and his stories with all of you. And I take back Swami's love in my heart full of memories, my heart full of Swami's love, and definitely lots and lots of inspiration from all these wonderful young brothers and sisters who have showed me what it means to love Swami. So thanks to all of you. We will all end with a bhajan. So there was somebody wanted to hear He Krishna. So we will sing He Krishna. And again, just like I was telling the other day to all the brothers, you can make a story with every bhajan. Right? So similarly, even with this bhajan, it's a very beautiful story that you can make very quickly. Swami would often tell that the Lord is living in a mansion on the first floor. So assume that you are going to meet somebody who has a big mansion and his bedroom is on the first floor. You go to the gate, okay, and you find a ferocious dog, okay, at the gate. Right? So what do? You have 2 options. One is you tame the dog, you try to tame the dog, and the dog is not going to listen to you. It's going to take a long time to tame the dog. Okay? Or you fight the dog, right? If you have those kind of muscles, you can just punch the hell out of the dog, okay, and kind of, punch him into submission, and then you walk up to meet the master. But the easiest thing to do is what? Call out to the master. Hey master, I have come. Can you just tie your dog and keep it? And the Lord says, yeah, I'm coming, just hang on. And he comes down, and the dog is the master's, right? So it is only going to wag its tail in front of the master, right? So the master can just tie the dog and then he invites you home. Similarly, the easiest thing to do, this Maya is like a dog, Swami says. So when we are approaching the Lord, this Maya will come and it will be barking at us. This world will bark at us. So either we can fight the world, we can tame the world, both of which are very long and arduous efforts. But the easiest thing to do is to call out to the Lord, and the Lord says, hey, I'm coming. And then he comes down in human form and he just tames the dog and he just ties it and he takes you along with it. Right? He takes you along with him to his home. So this song is like calling out to that Lord. So just imagine we are all at the gates of the Lord's mansion and we are all calling out to the Lord, "Oh Lord, come down and take me with you." Right? So we'll keep that in our mind when we are singing this bhajan. Nanda Kishora Shama Thank you, Sarah.